Okay, here we go. So I think we are now live.
Are we live?
Yeah, let's just double check and see if it comes up here. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Escape School. This morning we are in Work Life in Farringdon in London, England, and it's we are experiencing a heat wave here. Euphoria from England still being in the World Cup. And but I'm not here with two Englishmen. I'm here with two talented entrepreneurs. We've got 5 joining us this morning. So initially Ollie and Matt, and then we have Ranjan and Fede and Rosemary coming in a little bit. And the goal of this Facebook Live is to try and eke out a little bit about the journeys these entrepreneurs are on. And they're not too far ahead of where most of our escapees are when they meet us. And so it's really good to get that sort of like behind the scenes of what it's really like and see what the reality of life is like on this path. If you have questions, feel free to put them down below. We'll try and answer them as we go. And just to give you a bit of context about, for those of you that are new to the Escape School and what we do, our mission is to help people find fulfilling work, doing work that matters to them on a daily basis, so that Monday mornings are really exciting. As opposed to you dread them, and entrepreneurship, whether you're building your own business or whether you're helping someone else build theirs, or whether you're going into more of an entrepreneurial career with lots of different roles, freelancing, etc., is such a centerpiece of the whole world of work that we're within, and that we see growing really a lot, and the skills that matter there. So even if you're not thinking about building a business in the near future, these conversations and stories and insights should be really interesting in terms of how you might apply the mindset, how you deal with the risks and the challenges in your own career change. So, guys, good to have you both here. Let's start with your personal story. So, Ollie, when did you first think about what was your career, and when did you first think about I need to escape, and what happened?
Yeah. So I worked for HSBC. For 5 years. I started with them straight out of university, went to the internship program, then took my first graduate role with them, moved countries a couple of times, and I worked with them for about 4.5 years in total. Okay. And towards the end, throughout, it was incredibly intellectually stimulating. It's really interesting work. The institutional banking I found unbelievable. But then as the learning curve started to level off, you get more used to an industry. I kind of started to look up and go, okay, well, I'm 4.5 years into a pretty stable linear career.
Yeah.
What exactly am I doing here? To what purpose am I working each day? And although there was a very strong monetary incentive, in terms of the social benefit that I was creating, it was marginal at best.
Well, why did that matter to you?
Well, actually, this is something that we've spoken about before, but I realised that spending my whole life chasing this idea of moving from the 99.1 percentile of wealth to the 99.5 is not a fantastic mission. And looking up and thinking about the broader impact.
So you started at the 99.1 and you were like,
if
I work really hard, I can get to 99.5.
Pretty much.
And why is that a problem for you? Or why?
It's a problem because when you look back and you think, well, what did I spend all this effort and this sweat and this all this time doing? You think, well, surely you should be doing something more. I'm pretty much quoting the logo now.
Well, that's how you hear. So that's great. It's good to ask what's behind it. Now, so once you felt that strong urge, or you like, I don't want to just do the 0.4%, I want to do something different.
Yeah.
What steps did you take to make your escape?
So the first thing I did, my turning point was November the 12th last year. And I literally sat down at my desk and I said, what's the smallest possible thing I can do to make a statement, or to do something which will mark a turning point? And I just wrote a blog post. I said, I don't know what I'm doing yet, I don't know, but at the moment what I'm doing is not personally fulfilling. And I'm going to start some sort of side project which has some sort of social benefit. And it was as transient as that.
Okay.
But the first thing I realised after a couple of weeks of further exploration is that it's incredibly important when you're undertaking a new venture or a new project like this to be part of a community. And so one of the first things I started doing after talking to a lot of friends was looking around for basically communities, courses in London where I could connect with people who were at a similar stage and kind of feed off that energy and be part of a community which is doing similar things.
Great, so that's how it connects with us. And then the actual, did you have the clear idea about what that business might be before you handed in your notice? What was the transition process?
So initially all I had was a problem space. I said I want to make financial services more accessible. I want to make great money habits fun and dynamic.
For what kind of people?
For people like me.
Okay.
And that was all I had for a long time. I was just writing blogs about that, an event where I tried to help people with their money.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until partway through the escape course that I had a stronger sense that actually I wanted to help people save for their holidays, because I found after talking to a lot more people and doing what in lead methodology you call problem interviews, that actually the number one focus for people our age is to save for holidays. So I said, okay, well, how can you make that experience incredible? How do you make that engaging and interesting and connected? And then we started to conceive this idea of Money Cardo, which is a savings account for travel. But to address your question in terms of then when I quit, it wasn't until I had a genuine sense of momentum. So actually, I was talking about this with Matt yesterday, that you never want to quit because you're running away from something. You want to quit because you're being pulled towards something. And so I didn't quit.
Wise one here.
There you go.
Nice. It's a great mindset to.
Yeah.
to move
So
forward.
I finished my job in late May, and that was long after I'd built demos. I'd talked to dozens, if not hundreds, of people.
How did you do all that? Because you did. I saw you doing a lot of this. We talk about building business on the side. How did you go through the accelerator program with us, and then beyond that, maintain the momentum at this stage by yourself, whilst having a pretty intense full-time corporate job?
Look, I've always been very structured in how I spend my time, and the first thing is carving out time and habits by which you can get the work done. So I routinely woke up at 5:30 in the morning and did 3 25-minute intervals before work. Spent most of the weekend, each weekend, working on this stuff. So that, but the underlying motivation was I need to prove to myself I've got the chops and the commitment that I can leave my full-time job and go after this. So I'm a pretty risk-averse person. I wanted to be able to actually say with some level of surety, yes, this is something which has momentum, which can work. So it was never a problem to do the work.
And was there a moment with when you were doing the problem validation, you were getting more insights about this potential, that this need existed, and you could help people solve this issue around financial management and savings? Was there the confidence around that got to the point where you're like, now I can hand in my notice, I see a business model? What was the tipping point where it was like, now I can go for this?
I think there's no exact tipping point. It's more about each grain of sand puts the scales in a different balance.
Yeah.
But every interview you undertake, every piece of positive validation you get from potential customers gives you 10 basis or 1% more surety.
Sure.
This is the right choice. So there's never a light bulb moment. It's about laying the foundation, putting each brick in its place.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the fact you shared this. You posted a photo of the day you were walking out, sort of striding. Well, he was like striding out of the offices with a sort of. I mean, it looked like it was set up a little bit, but it was a pretty cool exit photograph.
What type of jacket were you wearing that yet? Like a lovely tweed.
No,
jacket.
it was
Smart.
cotton cashmere.
All right, we're not here to talk about escape fashion. Okay, so we'll come back to Money Cardo because Matt's now involved. But Matt, tell us a little bit about your escape journey. Where did the sort of thought of working on differently start?
On this, well, I haven't really followed a normal corporate sort of role or any type of career really. What I've always done is I've worked in jobs where I knew that I had to get like lots of experience in, and then I've always part-time worked on the side to save towards my next trip. So one of the big things for me was gathering the skills over an 8-year period, which I had an amazing mentor who we worked out what skills I should gain, and that's sales, how to run a team, how to build a website, various books that you should read. So he kind of just broke it down for me, and I kind of always saw it as that I never wanted to go into the actual corporate world, but I wanted to gain all these skills over time, and I wanted to work in other areas. So I started off my working career at home in Cape Town. I then worked in Ho Chi Minh in Australia. I then moved back to Cape Town, set up a social media marketing company there, and then moved to the UK to basically focus on all these things which I learned. So for me, it's never been about escaping from a corporate job. It's just been about learning and being really, really passionate about what I do, and then being able to share that experience with other people.
And those decisions that you were making during that 8-year period, they were really driven around, were they just like random curiosities or the opportunity to go work somewhere different, or was it around building up that portfolio of skills?
It was around the opportunity to learn all of those actual skills, because I always knew, that I wanted to set up a business, or I wanted to be involved in a business that I really, really cared about. But you have to gain all those skills before you can go out and actually do that. And I tried various other businesses in the past where I was working on my own, but it was really hard to find a structure and somebody to work with to bounce all of the ideas off. But then again, you learn off of that, and you figure out a way to move on. So yeah, that's why I went after all these skills.
And when you went to that's right, perfect. So when you set up the social media agency in Australia, right?
South Africa.
South Africa.
That's where I'm from.
That's right.
He's Australian. I'm South African.
You've been all over the world. I'm
Yeah.
getting confused. So in South Africa, how did you start it?
So I was lucky enough to have a mentor who brought me on board into this actual business, and we kind of worked out what we had to do. So one of the first things I did was I phoned other social media marketing agencies in the UK, because we had set up in South Africa, but we were targeting the market here. And what I did was I phoned social media agencies in the UK, and I got them to take me through all the processes of how they work, their sales, various working templates, and just how they operate.
So this is
as
quite
a
a bold
business.
hustle, because what you just described there is the bit where most people will say things like, well hold on a second. So you cold call. How did you find these organisations, and what was your opening line to get them to stay on the phone?
So I researched them, I typed in top social media agencies in London, and then I acted as though I was another business, so that they would treat me as though I was lead. And I basically gathered all the information that I needed, and I took various bits, and I was like, this works really well from this agency, this works really well from that agency, and I combined that into our own actual processes as a team, which then allowed us to understand how the UK market worked, and to set up an agency.
Okay, and how did that go? Did that sustain you for a period of time? Why are you not still doing that, or are you?
No, so the business in South Africa, they've actually decided to scale down, so I've left, and it sustained me really well. We got the team up to 18 people. We had over 60 clients, and they're still working in South Africa. But for me, I reached a point where I'd learned everything that I wanted to learn with them, and it was time for me now to also move on and be involved with something that I'm really, really passionate about, which is helping people save towards their next trip.
And why do you care about that issue?
So travel for me is something that's always been huge. I have traveled to 29 countries, and every experience that I've had in each place has been something that'll stay with me for my whole life. I'm more about having an experience that'll last you your whole lifetime. You learn so much about that. So I really believe that everybody should be saving towards another experience or a trip, and all the travel, that's what it helps you with. You just learn, you grow as a person. It helps you to look at things in like a new light. So that's why I really, really believe in it, and I believe that it is just something people should be doing all the time.
And you came to London a year ago now?
Just over a year ago.
Just over a year ago.
May.
And did you plan to stay here? What have you been doing since you've been in London?
So many things. So many things. No, yeah, I came to London to stay here indefinitely. My plan was always to learn here. I think the working force in London is much more demanding, if I can use that word, than it is at home in South Africa. So many, like, the market size is just so much bigger, so all the opportunities here are huge. So I wanted to come to London to learn, and then South Africa is also, I would say, 5 years behind all the London market. So it's a good way to learn something here and build it up here, and then be able to move back to South Africa, which would be my ultimate plan, and take something that I've learned and build here home.
Okay, so in the last year, top 2 or 3 projects you've been involved with. What have you been doing?
So top 2 or 3 projects. So really carrying on building up the social media agency here, and then being on the escape course, because that's where I got to meet all of you guys, all the community, and joining Ollie to build up my father.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now we bring this to you guys. So tell us about the courtship. So we talk a lot about in the accelerator. A lot of people. Well, it is. It's a different
It's a
kind
courtship,
of
yeah.
relationship, isn't it? We talk a lot about on the accelerator program about people. A lot of people want to find co-founders.
Yeah.
Ollie, you're a good example. So, but it's a really challenging thing. And there's this chicken and egg situation between going out and looking for people, looking for your ideal co-founder, versus building your first version of your business in order to attract the right people. So I guess, Ollie, what was your strategy here, and how did you attract the talented gentlemen to it? How did it happen?
Well, so one follows the other. The first thing is you build momentum in the business and you build an exciting proposition, and immediately you start to generate like a flywheel of momentum where more people want to get in contact with you, more people want to discuss the idea. So,
and were you thinking when people getting in touch, so you're thinking, oh, this is the potential co-founder, or are you thinking customer? What's your priority? Or are we just open?
You stay pretty open, but the first thing is you wouldn't start a discussion thinking, yes, definitely co-founder. You start off saying, these people are interested, how can I help them collaborate? So say if someone gets in contact and they say, oh, I love this idea, so hey, come in for a 15-minute coffee, let's chat. And then you start to get a sense, and maybe they can help you with a connection, maybe they can help you because they have a specific skill set, and maybe you have a really good personal interaction. You say, okay, well actually, how can I get this person involved more? So it's always a continual progression. There's never a point where there should be a binary discussion, which is, yes, I want to commit the next 5 years with you, or no, I don't want to talk to you.
So how did that initial discussion go between you guys?
Well, we met during the course and we were just chatting kind of in general terms about the concept. And then later on, say in May, after I quit my job, I got in contact with Matt again and we said, oh, let's go for a beer and catch up and hear how things go.
Official first date.
Official first date. Yeah. It's actually, that was nice.
It's so funny because it is very similar.
It is really similar to
up to a point.
But we're just chatting and seeing where we were, and then I was thinking, oh, actually, I do need someone with Matt's skill set, so let's catch up again. And we met the next week to talk more about the concepts. We're just chatting as mates.
Which skills were you particularly like? These are the ones I love.
So what I recognise in myself is that I don't like marketing or sales. It doesn't suit me. I like going out and telling the message. It just doesn't fit naturally with me. I knew that Matt was really good at those things, and I knew, as we talked before,
I think you're good at that, but anyway, maybe you don't enjoy it.
It's not what I enjoy doing. But then the really important thing I think we did is it's very easy to sit and talk about ideas and to have like a connection like that, or it's easier, but it's much harder to go out and do something together because then you get a sense of personal interaction. So the next thing we said is that actually let's go out and do a customer development session together. So we went to Campus London.
It's getting serious now.
Customer
session together. This
guy is keen to the next step.
You could see Matt was super keen because he made the time to do it. He was really busy at that time. He was finishing up his job, going on a trip. He was prepared. He came to the session with a list of ideas, list of questions. He'd done the work, and he threw himself into it. So we said, hey, we're just going to go up to random people at Campus London, ask them to have a look at this, and talk to them about their travel plans.
And presumably you immediately felt, I've got a team, as opposed to it's just me.
Yeah, and immediately you get a sense of the chemistry, and I saw that Matt was like throwing himself in, trying everything, and really open to learning and to kind of collaborating, and that's a really good sign.
Yeah, and at this point, Matt, are you thinking, I'm going to get at least 30% equity if I come in? What's in your mind? Honestly.
For me, I wasn't really thinking about that at all. I was just really committed to what we were trying to achieve. Like I explained earlier, for me it is, I think that people should be saving towards a traveling experience all the time. And yeah, I also wanted to explore it. I wanted to see how we would work with each other. So when we suggested that that we have this week to work with each other, and we do every day.
So you set aside a whole week.
So it was after the cast dev session.
Yeah.
Then we said, right, that went really well. Let's do, and it worked out.
And it worked out well because then I was going on a trip. I went into South America for 2.5 weeks, and then by that stage when I came back, I was finishing up with my existing job at the end of last month. Yeah. So it just kind of worked out well with all the times that I could then put in a full week when I got back from my trip. So then we carried on working with each other, and we said we would give it this week and see how it went. So then we did an accelerated day. We put down ideas, we worked out our goals and all the vision, and we really aligned on that, which was really good. We then were invited to pitch at the Google campus, and that was the first time that I had openly pitched it, which was really good. So again, I went home, I did all the prep work, filled my head with as much of the information and all the knowledge that I could for being, so close to it for a short amount of time. We then continued to work on that, and then on Friday we sat down, we had a chat, we gave each other all the feedback of how we enjoy working with each other, what areas we need to improve on, what areas we're going to look at, and basically we had, by 1st of September, we needed to grow a wait list of 1,000 people, have 5 partners on board with us, and have a working prototype. So we are well on our way to doing that, and basically by the 1st of September, then we can start talking about all the equity split.
Okay, so that's your goal. If you hit those goals by 1st September, then you potentially the marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage. So this is the that's fantastic. And let's talk about finances for a bit now. So personally, how are you funding this, each of you? And are you looking? What's the business model for Moneycardo, and how are you going to get there?
Yeah. So at the moment, the funny is we're basically the product is free. We're using off-the-shelf products to do prototypes, demos, and so on.
Yeah.
And we're both living our savings, which is part of the process, especially for kind of tech products, which are not cash flow positive for a long time. In terms of the financing of the product and how we intend to do it, we are budgeting for 6 months where we're living off savings. Thereafter, securing a seed investment round where we can bring on a technical lead to build an MVP, which will actually go to market and start paying ourselves, which will be nice. But then actually this wouldn't be cash flow positive for probably 2.5-3 years. Okay. It's a huge scale game.
Okay, and if it doesn't work, right, those goals for September, you don't hit, you're going to learn a lot in the process, you don't hit, how are you going to adapt in that situation?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty clear indication. If we can't get 1,000 people saying, yes, we want to use this, then actually we need to go back to the drawing board and say, is our proposition compelling?
Yeah. And do you anticipate that in that situation you would still stick together? I mean, it's hard to tell, and actually then go, well, the problem's big enough that we still want to work on it, let's just try and find a different solution.
Yeah, I think the problem space is compelling. By that time we should have built a really strong partnership as a team. Yeah. So there's always another route around the problem. Yeah.
And for you, Matt, like this is this the first time you've joined in an enterprise at this stage in this way, or have you done this before, and how does it feel?
It's a bit of a challenging way to answer. I suppose I set up a tourism company in South Africa, but basically I just formed partnerships with hostels and B&Bs, and I took all their guests on surfing and hiking tours. So that was kind of my first individual project. Then when I joined the team to set up the social media agency, I was employee number 1, and I was basically said, right, this is what we need you to do, and I went and achieved that. So I've kind of been in the similar stage, but with this, because at the moment we're both operating on what we think works well and best, and we don't have that much actual guidance yet, which is fun because we just have to work it out as we go. And to also join a business pre-revenue, pre-earning anything. It's the first time that I'm in that stage. When I set up the other business in South Africa, I was able to be at home with my folks, which was easier. I had various lines of income there, and that was quite easy to pick up work. And because I was just working on my own, it wasn't like this where we were going to start earning money out of it in like a year's time after we.
So the excitement levels have gone up a little bit.
The excitement levels are extremely high.
All right, guys. A couple of questions to finish. Like, what is from what you've learned doing this so far, your different journeys? What's the biggest insight learning that you think other people maybe going from what you've seen, because you both coached escapees as well, as being on the program. So you see mistakes that people make that actually in the startup process could save them a lot of time and money. And also, how can we help you guys on your mission?
So two things I've learned. The first is seeing from my cohort and also the cohort I'm coaching, people have a really strong tendency to over-engineer, to plan as opposed to learn by building. And
which comes from the institutional way of working.
Absolutely. But the most effective way to progress is to learn by doing, learn by building. And the second thing is to actually go far, you need community and you need collaborators. So you start off by yourself, but absolutely essential to find a like-minded community to be part of, because that will accelerate growth and push you a lot further.
It's a great Mozambican proverb you just alluded to, which if you want to go, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Absolutely.
Cheesy classic. Right, Matt. What about you?
I think to agree with you, in saying that you really need to work with the team, or you find people that you want to work with, and don't be afraid to put your ideas out there. Put them out there. Be really, really vulnerable and open, and you'll be amazed at how many people want to actually come back and help you. So.
But the reason most people are scared about doing it, well, there's two reasons. One is that they're like, it'll be embarrassing, it's so terrible. Two, someone will nick it. And they're both false.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody always
because people don't care, or they,
or if they do think, this is a really awesome idea, for them to actually go out and build what you want to build, they're going to have completely other ideas about it. And I'm like, I know how to do this, I know who I have to bring on board. So nobody's going to, if they want to try and take the idea, try it.
Good luck. And you care about the competition once you're in competition.
Exactly.
You guys aren't in competition yet. Because
our competition is apathy.
The competition is here, right? It's each other. And how can we help Money Cardo in your mission?
So join the waitlist, www.mymoneycardo.com. Please go on the waitlist and join it. Share it with all of your friends, and reach out to us if you'd like any advice or anything, or if you enjoy the idea and our product and you want to work with us, reach out as well. So at the moment we're just looking for people to work with us and also on that waitlist.
Awesome. One last reflection on watching you guys both do this and sort of seeing a bit of your journey is that, firstly, great role models, and Ollie, putting yourself out there through the blogs and just sharing the doing is it's fantastic. The more that people do that, the better. And secondly, your use of bots. So we haven't got time to talk about this, but like a year ago, it wasn't that easy to create a sort of live chat with someone without a lot of programming skills, live instant messaging chat. But you've used tools to basically do this to start engaging people straight away when they land on Money Cardo. So what's your top recommendation for bot tools?
So the product we use is manychat.com. Manychat.com, but chatfuel.com is also a very good alternative. And you can set up a bot in 5 minutes and start playing.
So you literally just write the script of the conversation that you want to have.
Yeah.
Have a look at it. It's on Money Cardo. It's a good example, but it's one of those things when you see it from a user perspective, you're like, oh, this is really great and helpful, and it's engaging. But it must require lots of technical skill. No, it requires writing a good script.
Yeah.
So that's the skill.
That's
Guys,
really
thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
If
you so
you
much.
can go and find, there they are. Fede and Ranj, they're going to take your places.
Right.
Good luck. Let us know how it goes.
We will
and
do.
how we can help. See you soon. I'll see you both on Saturday.
Yes.
Excellent.
Matt's coming to run a LinkedIn workshop at our.
If you're interested.
And Ollie is coaching his group, and we're going to watch football.
Yes.
It's going to be a good day.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care. All right. Come on in. Hi, Fede.
Hello.
Hi, Ranj. Come down and see us here.
Hello.
The warm-up act are leaving.
Yes.
The main event. The main event. See you guys.
Hi.
All right. So we're still rolling here. I can see you in the background. Come around this way a little bit so they can see you. Fede, just come around the corner this way. Come towards me, Ranj. Yes. Look at the colour coordination on you two.
I know our dress code was tropical parrot vibes.
I think you nailed it. And also, I'm glad I didn't wear my Kermit jumper because that would have been funny. Thank you for being here this morning. So we just had a nice chat with Ollie and Matt about their own escape journeys and what they're now building together. So there's a similar sort of bit of a mirror with you both, although completely different journeys and what you're making. So to start with, maybe individually, tell us a little bit about what kind of career you've come from. And how you escaped it, or how you started to make a change. Whoever wants to go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I came from a very social enterprise background, which I enjoyed a lot. So I did a lot of work at university, setting up social enterprises, helping other people set up social enterprises. And I did it for a couple of years, and I thought, I am not making anywhere near enough money to exist in London.
Yeah. Love the mission, but not great business model.
Yeah, not a great business model. And so I escaped from that into a career in recruitment, which at the time was hilarious because all of my friends were like, "What are you doing?" But I just was very like, I need to make more money.
Yeah.
And I lasted about 6 months before I realised that I just was not cut out.
So not enough to retire on.
Not enough to retire on.
Why was it so painful for you?
It was a very, very target and commission driven culture. And the original reason that I thought I would enjoy doing it is because I'd be working with people constantly. But actually it's means to an end to help someone get a job, and people aren't necessarily nice to you. And it was very much about how many calls are you making today, how many roles are you filling, what's your, what target are you hitting. It just became about Excel spreadsheets and numbers and commission. So I escaped again from that.
And then what happened?
What happened? So what actually happened is that I got quite ill and I had to move home for like nearly a year and a half. And during that period, I was just kind of at home. I was chilling with my parents. People are not enthusiastic about living with their parents, but for me it was absolutely amazing because they just kind of refocused me on what I actually wanted to be doing with my life. And one of the things that I've noticed when I was ill is that if you're coming in and out of hospital a lot, you get a lot of presents, or cards and things from your friends. Flowers and chocolates, and they're not necessarily the most useful gifts to get. So I started having this idea for Care Package Co, which was a way of sending more useful and thoughtful gifts to people who were in hospital, or people who were struggling with various illnesses. And I kind of was playing and testing and trying that idea when I joined Escape. And so I did the Escape Startup Bootcamp. And that
This was last autumn, wasn't it?
This is last autumn.
Yeah.
So like last September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us how Care Package Co is a year old or over a year old now. What's it achieved in that year? What's it done that's been fantastic, and what are the challenges?
What has it achieved in that year? That's a really good question. So I think we have sold nearly 1,000 care packages.
Wow.
I really wanted to break that.
What's in a care package? Right.
So it completely depends. There's like series of them, but the whole point of the care packages is that they are thoughtful and useful presents for people who are either in recovery or struggling with illness. So they are completely tailored, whether that's chemotherapy, post-surgery, post-pregnancy. It depends on who it's going to. So in like say chemotherapy one, all of the products are chemotherapy friendly. There's a big focus on products that help with nausea. There's a big focus on light, fun, reading material for when you're actually sitting in chemotherapy. But so we work with a lot of charities when we're designing the care packages. I'm by no means an expert in chemotherapy, but I worked with loads of cancer. I worked with about 6 cancer services charities and took their feedback in terms of actually designing the care package. So we are very, very close to hitting our 1,000 care packages sold mark. In terms of other things we achieved, we very close to hitting the 3,000 followers mark on Instagram. And the last, actually, especially after joining Escape, it really made me think about how to take it from something that was just like a hobby in my bedroom that I was like putting together care packages a bit more manually to something that can actually be scaled. So now we use a fulfillment company to do a lot of the actual making of care packages. And I've actually recently been starting looking at a more B2B model, so working with companies who obviously have employees, and when their employees are on sick leave or maternity leave or have birthdays, they're sending presents, and again, the presents aren't the most useful things.
This is amazing what you've achieved by yourself just from scratch with getting this going. I know that care package is not all you do. In fact, it's only part of what you do. So just tell us briefly what other projects you're involved with. We'll come on to Spark and Co obviously, but what other projects you're involved with in terms of around your startup?
Yeah, of course. So I also run a small freelance agency called Copy and Code. We do, as the title suggests, copy and code for startup and scale-up companies. So our customers are very much people who are in their MVP stage, first iteration of an idea, don't have the time and don't have the money to spend on kind of fancy developers. So we kind of do, our bread and butter is MVP websites. And we...
MVP, for those that don't know, is what?
Minimum viable product.
Okay, so the first quick, rough version of a business product or service. Yeah. So you help them get that out there.
We help them get it out there,
okay.
and we don't just do the website part. So what's important is that we do the website plus all of the copy, the UX, and we kind of optimize it for SEO. So there are so many website builders out there now, and it is actually very easy to put your first version of a website together. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good for SEO. It doesn't mean that it's going to get the click-through rates that it needs, etc. You do have to have like a level of knowledge to make it as optimized as possible.
I know there's a lot in the world of SEO, but just for a top tip, something you can do if you've built the first version of your website to try and start getting traction that way.
Top tip is all of those sort of boxes and tags where you can add in descriptions, meta tags, alt tags. Don't leave them empty, add them in, write every product description, write every title, really thinking about the words that you're using, and just, it's just like manual labour, but you just got to add all of those words in when you do it.
So copy and code, and then care package, anything else?
Yeah, Spark and Code.
Okay, cool. So we'll come on to that. I was like, Raj also seems to be helping out all sorts of events and communities and projects as well. So Fede, your escape journey so far.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I think my escape journey started last year around this time. I've been working in the social sector for a few years, which is definitely a sector you pick out of passion, as Ranjan was saying before. So it actually took me a while to realize I wasn't really that happy in the job I was doing. And that was because I was working for a medium, big size organization, so my role was very much operational. I didn't really have much time to exercise my creativity daily, and I guess I couldn't really touch on the impact I was contributing.
So you felt removed from the reason that you actually went into this.
Exactly. So I thought, what if I start my own social business so I can use my creativity to create a small solution to make some impact out there in the world.
Easy decision to make.
Problem was I didn't know how to do it, and this is why I joined the Escape Startup Accelerator last autumn with Ranjan as well, which was definitely one of the best decisions I made, and it gave me so much in terms of getting a new mindset. So not only in terms of practical tools and structure and how to do it, how to go from having an idea to setting up a business, but in terms of mindset, definitely professionally and personally as well, on how to really get out there and don't overthink about stuff, just drawing them out.
And tell us about the ideas that you've been playing with and what you've built so far.
Yes, so from the escape, the Mood Club was born.
Mood Club. What's the Mood Club?
Yeah,
Tell us about
so
that.
the Mood Club comes from a worry I had. So last year I started to think about having a family and becoming a mom, and I thought, what if I lose myself? I lose part of my identity in the process. What if I don't really have time to focus on myself and my well-being? And I did some research around it and discovered this is actually something that is affecting most women juggling many things at a time, and especially new moms, of course. And so I wanted to start sharing some tips and creating some tools to support and inspire new moms to take some time to focus on themselves and on their well-being. And so I've designed my first product, which is a set of cards called the Mood Cards, that contain small practical activities you can do for just a few minutes a day to take some time to focus on yourself and your well-being, and that are encouraging self-growth and self-confidence. And so this is where I'm at.
So this is like a really life mission focus that you've got. Where does the overlap with the kind of career and business side? How much of this do you see this as a project I'm going to keep going, try and grow, versus I need to turn this into a business? How are you figuring that out? Or is it just literally I'm exploring and taking it one step at a time?
I think it definitely started as a sort of experiment. I just wanted to try out and see if it was working, but then I'm now investing most of my time and energy in that, and I think I'm in that exciting stage where I'm trying to grow in it and see if I can actually make some money out of it as well. And I'm really enjoying it, and I know I still have a long way of learning, and I'm going to make some mistakes along the way, but it's exciting.
One of the things watching both of you, but also some of the other group, in fact, I saw you all on Instagram last night having dinner together somewhere. So you've formed an amazing little tight group, and one of the things that you've been particularly good at is helping each other market your projects through Instagram. You now both run workshops. You've helped escapees on this current group and the last group figure out their Instagram. So just tell us a little bit about how you got into using Instagram stories as a tool to help you with your missions and business. You've both done it really well.
So mine was just very I definitely was one of those people that was spending way too much of my life on Instagram, and it just occurred to me one day that I could actually be doing something productive with it. And it was so simple because I was running the Care Package Co account, and I'd been running it for like 8 months and had maybe 400 followers. And then I started doing Instagram, introduced these things where you could do polls. And I thought, around that time was when we were doing the escape sessions on assumption testing. And I thought, hey, polls are a really good way to actually test assumptions because you can directly ask your followers what they think. So I was just putting like photos of products and saying, does this help you with your self-care, yes or no? Or would you want this product in a care package, yes or no? So that was like the very first time that I was like, hey, you can definitely use this in a really productive way. And then it just sort of spiraled from there, and I became really obsessed with Instagram. So it is now genuinely.
How much is it of the obsession is a kind of addiction to the likes and all those other chemical releases that we get from social media, versus I can see myself hitting metrics that help me on my mission and help me grow my business? Or was it a bit blurred?
So I get that a lot of people really do, they love likes and it's addictive, and read all the stuff about, what it does to your brain and etc. But for me, with Care Package Co in particular, that has never been that much a thing. For me, Instagram has always been about community, because and I think social media gets a lot of stick for negative, kind of only showing the highlight reel. but actually when you use it to tap into community, what else exists on Instagram is this amazing community of bloggers who have been through chemotherapy or had invasive surgery, or it is a big platform for people to share their experiences. And so to me, it's always been about community. So it's not about the likes, it's about, when I reach out to an influencer who has thousands of followers and is really open about their mental health and their depression, and they get back in touch and say, hey, I think you're doing something amazing. That for me is...
Breeds confidence.
Completely.
So Federica, you've done this quite a lot as well. What have you learned using Instagram?
I totally agree with Ranj, and I guess for me, I wasn't really using Instagram before starting with the Mood Club, and I think for me is a powerful way, first of all, to connect with other people and businesses in the space, especially moms are definitely spending a lot of time on Instagram. So it is the privileged channel in that respect. But also it is a powerful way for me to create content and see if and use it as a way to share tips and to kind of veiculate my message as well. So I'm really enjoying using it for that reason, and it's also a powerful way to create connections and partnerships as well. So yeah.
Instagram's getting a lot of love. So you two are now officially collaborating on a project as opposed to supporting each other and everything you've done in the past. Tell us about how that's come about and what it is you're doing.
How has that come about?
I think, Ranjan and I met on the Escape Story Accelerator, of course, and I think we like to tell the story about we just saw each other across the room and fell in love.
We did though. That's what happened.
That's what it is in hindsight. That's how it happened.
But we were actually talking about this yesterday. I think the reason why we quickly connected was that the very first conversation we had wasn't just a chit chat about what do you do, what is your idea. It was a very deep conversation around mental health. So I guess
we went
right
straight
from the
for
start, we realized right away that we do share a lot in terms of values, in terms of vision, in terms of what we're passionate about, what we care about, and so it was quite clear from the very beginning that we would have done something together.
Okay, so that was born, that chemistry was there, and then what have you started? What's the project?
So the project is called Spark & Co. It is really, really simple. It is community content and connections for women in the entrepreneurship space. We tested it with an event that we did on International Women's Day, kind of stole the escape model and just ran it on a conference for women on International Women's Day to also just celebrate being women in the entrepreneurship space. I think the big sort of mission with it is to make entrepreneurship more intersectional. At the moment, intersectional is a word that's used, it applies to feminism, but I believe that everything in life should be intersectional, including entrepreneurship.
So tell us a bit more what you mean behind that for those that this phrase is a new word for them.
Yeah, of course. So entrepreneurship is really hard, and everyone that's trying to get into it faces completely different challenges. But I think you have to accept that as a white man, for example, you're going to have a completely different set of challenges to a brown woman, or to somebody who is disabled, or to somebody who is LGBT. Completely different challenges, and so being intersectional is about recognizing all of those different sections of society, all of those different sections of entrepreneurship, and learning how to kind of tailor support, tailor content to different sections of community. And some parts of it are just really simple. Some parts of it are like, hey, when you're doing content, don't just do content that is, interviewing white male authors or books written by white men, throw in some more diverse perspectives. Some of it is really simple. And then some of it is a lot more complicated, like only 2.7% of VC funding goes to women, and a tiny part of that is to ethnic minority women. So how do you even begin to unpackage that? But in essence, intersectionality is about being inclusive and championing all of the different sections of entrepreneurs that exist.
So really, really important mission, brilliantly described. how's this going to be pay for itself? Because going back to your social enterprise and also having come from the social sector and seeing the fact that these business models don't necessarily enable people to accelerate on their missions as much as they could because they have to have other jobs. So how's Spark & Co, or does it need to, or is it going to be funded by all the other entrepreneurship that you're doing?
So I think we're still very much in the early stages of figuring it out and what that looks like. And it's a really exciting place to be in because there's so many opportunities. We just need to figure out which one is the one that we want to jump on. But there's so many different ways. So our events are ticketed, so the events kind of pay for themselves. In the future, it could be anything from e-learning platform to actual physical learning platforms, something like Escape does. One of the people that I'm incredibly inspired by, her name's Arla, and she runs this company called Backstage Capital. It's an American company, but she raised $36 million to invest into black female entrepreneurs, and I think they've just hit their 100 investments.
As a venture capital model?
Yeah, venture capital model took equity, so I find that incredibly exciting. I think...
So you're going to build that community then to potentially approach people with that kind of influence or resource to say, hey, we've got the talents and the need.
Yeah, and I think it's something that for both of us, we know how to do. Like Fede built the Mood Club in that community before the Mood cards came. And I built this community of like self-care bloggers and recovery people in recovery before care package code was a thing. So we get the community building thing, and I think part of it is also we want to build solutions that are relevant to the community. Like we don't want to come in and say, hey, this is what women in entrepreneurship need. So we're very much at that stage where we're trying and testing and so open to ideas and feedback, and then we've got to work up.
What have you learned so far, Fede, about the people you've been meeting through the Spark & Co events?
I think, and this is definitely part of our mission as well, I think that what we want to do is really try to provide tailored solution, and that I guess we all are facing similar challenges, not only from a practical point of view, and I guess this is also the other thing we really want to focus on, but also from more, let's say, personal or emotional point of view. Of course, the entrepreneurial journey is made of ups and downs, and it is important also to develop soft skills and resilience, and I think we really want to build on that as well to kind of provide an holistic support.
And I think one thing that we did really learn from people that we've met in the community so far is that there is so much appetite for it. So we did this event on International Women's Day, and the best thing about the event to me was one, the number of people that we had pitch in and help out and run logistics, run sessions, all of this kind of stuff. But two, we set a close time at this event that's going to finish at 9, and we were there at like 10:30, like hustling people to get out of the space. We were like, guys, we really got to.
What have you started?
Yeah.
It's a good but tiring situation.
Yeah. But there is just like a lot of, I think, goodwill, and people really want to help and get involved. And it is amazing. Like if you put a group of like amazingly talented, ambitious, entrepreneurial women together in a room, their kind of energy and the atmosphere and I'm going to help you, I'm going to connect you, I'm going to ask this question, like it's really incredible.
Fantastic. So a couple of questions to finish. Firstly, from all your journey so far into entrepreneurship, the biggest kind of couple of learnings, and maybe ones around where you see other people making mistakes you've come across or you've been through yourself, and like, this is the thing to try and avoid, or what I've learned. And then secondly, how can we help?
So things to avoid, getting down on yourself. It takes a really, really long time to build a successful business. I don't know if it's just that we live in a world where everything moves so quickly nowadays. But I'm especially guilty for it, and I know a lot of other people are as well. It's just being really impatient. But it takes a lot of time, so don't beat yourself up if you're not where you want to be in like the first 6 months of the first year. Because care package co has nearly made 1,000 sales, but I was also trying and testing it for like a year before we started selling. So actually it's taken like 2 years to get to that point. Just keep going every single day. It's just a collection of small decisions that you make to keep going and to not give up on it, to not be patient.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it, when you see the stories of successful entrepreneurship in the mass
sure.
media, and you just hear about it, and it's only these stories that really
Yeah.
hit the surface, and so you're like, oh well, they sold for $1 billion, or they raised this much money,
right,
or
so
they,
it's like, you know,
and
we
then
live
they're
in a world
completely
of, like,
unrealistic.
Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
sure. And like we live in a world of like Forbes 30 and under 30, and I'm sitting there looking at it thinking, I'm 29. Oh my god, if I don't do all of these things in the next year, like Jesus Christ, what have I achieved with my life? And it's just like, yeah, you know, people on Forbes 30 under 30 are great, but so is everyone. So is everyone.
If we can live to 100, there's plenty of lists to join. Fede, what about for you? What's been the big
I
learning?
think for me the biggest lesson was really that that you have to step out of your comfort zone constantly, and that nothing good happens if you stay home. And if you say
What's
no to things.
what's the most uncomfortable thing you've done so far on this journey?
I think it's
Working with
probably
Fede?
this one.
Doing a Facebook Live, but there's only 3,000 or 3. I can't see. It's alright, all these straight away. So other than,
But yeah, so the point is, I think whenever you try to do something for the very first time, it might feel really scary, but then you kind of feel a little bit more confident every time, and that is great. And that you have to be proactive, of course, to go out there, to connect with people, to create opportunities for yourself. You can't just wait for things to happen.
yeah, my learning from watching the both of you over the last year is, and a few others from your group as well, is that your pay it forward mindset of just helping other people first, which sometimes pushes you into a situation where you're taking on too much. But you both do that all the time. You're like, how can I help? How can I help? And that builds so much trust and goodwill. And actually, when you then get around to, we're doing this thing now.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a smart marketing as well as genuine goodwill, and also it's
we do
an
it generally.
yeah, you do, but it's authentic. That's why it works. So you're great role models of that. In terms of Spark and Co, how can we help?
So I think there's two things. We really want to talk to and hear from more women in the entrepreneurship community about what they think is lacking, what they think, what they need, and how we can help. So we'd really love to do some consultations with people, just like 20, 30 minutes, having some conversations and figuring out how we can help. So one is, get in touch with us. And the second thing is sign up to our newsletter, because it's great and there's some great content.
How can people find you online? I'll leave the link down here as well. But what's the?
It is www.sparkandco.co.uk.
Sparkandco.co.uk. All right. Who's Spark?
Who's Spark?
And Co.
Both of us.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
We've
you
got
for
one
having
more
us.
entrepreneur, Rosemary, who I'm going to bring in now. Rosemary, just concentrate.
concentrating.
I want you guys to
Yes,
meet her. I'm going to interview her first.
We've met her
Oh,
actually.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Rosemary, come on in. Thank you both of you, and
Thank you for
see
having
you
us.
soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Go and write your blurb underneath on here now, so
We will do.
people will spread it around a lot more later.
Thanks for having
Take
us.
care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for the colourful dress code as well. All right, we've got one more to go. We're going to have a chat with Rosemary, and then we've done quite well. Come and sit here, Rosemary. We're live on Facebook.
Yes.
Over there, we've been chatting with Ranjan and Fede, and before that, Ollie and Matt
Oh, yes.
at Monicado. So
Exciting things.
yeah, you brought your product, it's exciting. It's always good when someone brings a
Yeah.
product. So Rosemary is currently coaching on our accelerator program at Escape the City, and we met at Virgin Startup.
We did.
Well, not that only a few months ago.
Yeah.
And she lit up the room with some energy and passion, and then backed it up with some evidence of attraction as well. And I was like, oh, we need this woman in our community as well. So I didn't steal you, but
You technically did.
I
Yes.
invited you to come and join in with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So what I'd love you to share with the Escape community this afternoon, Rosemary, is a little bit about how you got to where you are now. So what's your background been in terms of your career, and what did that escape look like for you?
So I've spent quite a lot of years in marketing. So I worked in big global corporation doing marketing for media companies and broadcasters. So we're talking about BBC Worldwide, AMC, makers of Fear the Walking Dead, Breaking Bad.
And this was straight out of uni, or?
No, it's quite interesting. I studied law at uni,
Okay.
didn't know what I wanted to do, became a mortgage broker for a couple of years because I thought, I'd like to invest in a couple of properties, which might come in handy. And then I realized that that's not my passion. I've always been more creative. So I've done a lot of drama in school, and I didn't do that because, the thing to do was to either study law, medicine, engineering.
So you suppress the real version of yourself,
Exactly.
which is what we see a lot of
entrepreneurs or people do,
Yeah.
young people do.
Yeah.
Because
And when did you realise that definition of success wasn't yours?
when I felt out of place, so working as a mortgage broker, the environment wasn't right for me. There was the moral standards, the ethos of the company just didn't sit well. The day you wake up crying just because of the thought of going into work was just so depressing. And I realized I was too young for that. At 22, 23, I think I was just too young to do
And
that.
then how long did it take you to go from, and then you went into the media corporation?
Yeah, because I thought that's a nice balance. I'll make some money and I'll get to be creative as well.
And how long did that last before you thought, no, this isn't right?
I worked in media for about 8 years and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I worked for companies, like I mentioned, that I was very proud of, and I loved their content and I loved what I did. But what changed was that I always felt like I was pushing, and I always felt like, I was trying to push to progress. I'm very driven now, granted, but I always wanted to push to progress. So it always felt like in that career I was pushing. It didn't feel like it was flowing. And the push came when I had the perfect job, the perfect manager, and then they decided to restructure, and I had a new manager who, was probably one of the worst situation in my life, where I thought I'm this strong, powerful woman, yet I've got this other person who is acting in a way that I just couldn't understand, and it turned out I was being bullied. Even I didn't understand that until other people were like, Rosemary, this is not right, And it did affect me emotionally, it affected me physically. And the tools that I used to kind of overcome that challenge and overcome other challenges is what actually led me to creating this product.
Yeah.
Because I realized that perhaps it's not just me going through this. How do people who don't have these tools, who don't think they're strong, who don't think they're confident, survive situations like this? Even when I, this power woman, supposedly can't survive it, so how do other people do? So I thought, let me put something.
Classic
together.
entrepreneur, like you have the real painful experience. You're like, how can I sell this shit to other people? How can I sell it?
Exactly.
So no, that's
Exactly.
what it's all about. So tell us about mind map. So that was the beginning of it. You went through that personal challenge.
Yes.
You gathered a lot of experience. And how did you turn that into what now is this amazing product?
Mind map is, like I said, really just putting all the tools that I've gathered in my life when coming through challenges or trying to find solutions to problems, and I just couldn't find one place to, where I had all the solutions. So the idea came again during this challenge, and I was with girlfriends, and I was like, let's start our vision board, let's start planning the life we want. And they said, why, you have all these ideas, why don't you actually do something about it? And I don't know, something clicked in me, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So, and I committed. That's the thing. Once you commit to something.
But was the commitment just saying it out loud to a friend, or what was it? Something else?
The commitment was saying out loud to my friend, and then I went to an event called UPW, which kind of stamped it onto my life. UPW is Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins.
Robbins has been dropped.
It's been dropped. He always finds his way into my conversations. So he's
not our next guest.
If you don't know who he is he's an amazing life coach. He coaches all the #1 superstars, the presidents, all athletes, whoever. And he's got this essence, or this kind of he has a way of making you feel empowered and setting that intention and hopefully following through if you're the kind of person. So by chance, after I set that intention that I'm going to try this out, 2 weeks later I managed to be at his event that I never planned to be. And that was, so it changed my mindset. It was a mindset thing. He made me imagine life in 5 years if I didn't change, how it would be. And then he made me imagine how, if I made some changes life in 5 years would be, and then the
It's
fear.
very obvious.
Exactly, the fear of losing out what potentially I could achieve was greater than the fear of not, doing it. So.
And that trade-off then, when you look at it, in that contrast, it seems so like, why would I use it?
Exactly.
It's something not the same Tony Robbins style, but we do a lot in Escape School. We even get people to write 2 versions of their obituary, which is quite intense when you're thinking about like the end of your life and like which version do you want to be written about you. And it's like, well, hold on a second. So you had that big breakthrough, mindset breakthrough. What were the practical steps you then took to try and get mind map?
Practical steps. I think everyone who's starting a business, the fears that come into mind is first of all financial fears. I had a mortgage. I don't come from a family where there's money, so if I need to fall back, there's not really much to fall back on. The other fear was, I've spent 8 years kind of building my career in the media industry, building my profession. Do I just throw that all away and start again?
Career suicide.
Exactly. Will people laugh at me about my idea, what people want it? Do they think it's a little, ooh, oh my God? People might say it's a little, woo, what's that, Rosemary?
It's a great word.
So those are ultimate fears that I had. So I had to really evaluate them and find solutions to them. So the practical steps were, first of all, and it took a long time. It's not something I just sat down one day and I thought, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll get it.
Are we talking 2 months, 6 months?
It took me almost 2 years, a year and a half to get to where I left my job in December and started doing this full time. Practical steps where I left the job that wasn't right for me after I did what I needed to do. So I took the matters to hand and dealt with it, but then left. So it was quite nice. But I got a job at CNN and I was working for I was a maternity cover, which was perfect. I thought a year, that gives me time to set up. I can save up, I can do that as a project on the side, get everything set up, and after a year, leave the job, start doing it full time, give myself 6 months to a year. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't. And the other work fear was, do I throw this all away? And I did speak to a lot of people. I was like, do I throw my career away? And they gave me some practical advice. They said, listen, Rosemary, the new skills you're going to learn starting a business is incredible. Employees are probably always looking for people who have that mindset of, entrepreneurial mindset, that can think on their feet, so you're actually bringing new skills to your CV. And if it doesn't work out and you want to go back, doors are going to open for you, so don't worry about that. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. You spoke
to the right people.
You need to surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah. And then, so what I love about we described that kind of transition year is you essentially took a number of steps to de-risk your escape and to try and really test the assumptions around your fears. So it's fantastic. And then in terms of getting the product out there, so what was it look like? I mean, I can see what it is now, but what did you do to get it out there?
So again, de-risking my idea and constantly testing. I did a few. The first idea wasn't actually mind map. The first idea was totally something different. It was just PDF copies of paper sheets that you could color in with inspiring images and affirmations, and then it became mind map. So I then decided Virgin Startup. That is a great place to go because of the network, because of the resources and potentially the opportunities, and plus you get a loan that funding that is, the interest is ridiculous. It's almost like free money for you to start your business. But what I got from them is the business plan. So they go through that with you. They help and support you. And I thought that's great because then I can have a professional look this over and potentially show me my pitfalls. So that was market research. Because if they gave me the loan, that meant that, they think it's going to be a business. And also the resources. And then the next step for me was to go through Kickstarter. Again, it was more validation and market research because if I got funded, that indicates that potentially there is a market for the product, and I already have people who are fans of a product that's not even been created, but the idea and the concept. So those are the steps I took, and I went through them. And
how was Kickstarter as an experience?
It was it's a lot of work. I was working full time. It was a lot of work, and the good thing is that I had a coach. I continue to have a coach, but my coach at that time recommended a course. So it's always good to educate yourself. she recommended a course by this lady who also ran a Kickstarter, and funny enough, they did a planner as well, and they raised almost $500,000. So she ran a course on how she did it, what the pitfalls were, how to avoid them, how to plan, and I did that course. And yeah, it costs money, but you need to invest in yourself. And if you have an idea worth investing in, you need to do those things. And I went through that course, which really helped, because Kickstarter is all about the pre-planning. You don't just have a test product and put it out there and hope people will buy it. You almost have to have your fully funded amount in the bag before you go on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and then it's the marketing of.
That's the marketing.
Yeah. So it's it's definitely the mistake we see people make, is that they go, oh, I've got a prototype and some good.
Yeah.
A good blurb, a good story.
Exactly,
a
nice video.
I'll put it there, and because occasionally that happens, but then the vast majority doesn't.
Exactly.
So what were the results of Kickstarter?
So I got fully funded. I think I asked for a minimum sum of 6,000. So I just got over 6,000. I had in mind I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm $500,000. That'll do, yes. But
how many journals did you sell through that?
I sold about almost 200.
Okay. So these were your first customers?
These were my first customers, and these are the people that hopefully I can reach out to and get further advice, further feedback.
So you then printed and shipped this product?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I printed it in China. It arrived in October. Shipped it in October, and I thought, right, it's now time to actually start selling this.
Yeah. And how did you go from those first 200 customers and a little bit of revenue to where you are now?
Facebook ads and good timing.
That's it. So off now, that's the answer to life. Facebook ads.
So
tell us how you made, because Facebook ads probably a bit easier. So what was your strategy there, and how did you execute on it?
Facebook ads or just generally marketing?
Yeah.
With Facebook ads, I had been testing Facebook ads since I, created my map, the shop, the landing page, to try and get people to part with their email addresses so they get a discount when the product's ready.
Yeah.
So I had some emails. I think I had about 200 at that time. And as people are kind of hitting your website, and I had the pixel on my website, Facebook is capturing.
So pixel is what? Explain that.
Pixel is an ID that you get. So it's a personal ID feed for your Facebook ad manager. And what you do is you add that to your website. That means anybody that comes through to your website and is connected to Facebook can track who that is, where they've been, how long they've been there, did they buy, did they add a product to cart, did they not do anything, and that way it gives you a lot of insight as to who your customers are.
What you should do more of.
What you should more do.
Yeah.
And also the more people that arrive at your website, they've got something called the lookalike audience. So for example, if you have 1,000 people who have added your product to cart, you can then create a lookalike audience. Facebook will then look at, okay, these are the type of people, so therefore these type of people are more likely to add your product or buy your product, and it could be millions of people that look like your customer base.
Yeah.
And you
So
can
it's looking like
advertise
it's
to
a
them.
demographic.
And
Yeah.
then you can advertise to them.
So how many sales did you get doing this, and what did it cost you to do it?
So far, I had about 1,000 when I first printed, and like I said, I shipped the.
So you got 1,000 sales through this Facebook ad?
Oh no! Through Facebook ad, I've had probably 1,000, almost 1,500, 1,600.
Okay, and this is the journal now is about £30 product?
Yes.
Okay, so about 1,300 people just through Facebook ad campaign have bought this product.
That's the only way I market at the moment, which I will expand. I know there are other ways, but.
No, but if it's working, it's great. And what did it cost you for the ads?
The ads, what I'm trying to average at the moment is $5 per purchase.
Yeah.
It's costing me a little bit more because I'm still testing a lot of ads, and I'm not scaling at the moment. At the moment, I'm playing around with $5, $10. If I want to go crazy, $15, $20 a day ads.
Okay.
So it's. I'm still in the process of testing because I'm still quality controlling my product and systemizing the whole system.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping to get up to $5 per purchase. So that's nothing. I think that's about £4 per purchase. And the more I scale, I think it will probably go lower.
Okay, and then so the margin on your products at the moment is 50%? A bit more?
Margin on my product can be between 50 to 70%, I'd say.
Depending on your ads.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So is this now, are you living off this?
I am full time
Fantastic.
since January, and I didn't have stock. I sold out mid-January, so I didn't have
So
stock.
your problem was not enough supply, too much demand, not enough supply.
Yes.
Which is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yeah.
So how are you overcoming that?
I mean, I like I said, I printed 1,000, so I didn't know if there was going to be a huge demand.
Yeah.
And timing was Christmas and New Year's, where everyone's thinking about self-development and setting
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah.
So it sold out, and I was like, oh, I prayed so hard. I was like, manifest sales, and it got sold out. So it's a learning curve for me. So I need
That
to.
doesn't always work as a marketing strategy. Coupled with great execution on your ads.
Of course, you need to work
That's
hard.
a good timing part.
You need
Okay.
to, yeah. But I think with time, I'm learning to know. Okay, it takes me it's a 3 months lead for me to
Okay.
get my products in stock. So therefore, if I'm below a certain number of journals or whatever, I need to start looking at placing an order. So I'm learning. I'm learning. along the way.
It's amazing how quickly you've done it. What's next for MindMap? What's the next steps?
Oh, it's a lot.
Tell us
It's a
the
lot.
top three.
The top three is, like I said, I want to systemize, make sure my system is all in place.
Okay.
The sales funnel.
You're doing this all by yourself,
I
right?
am. I've managed to find a VA who's really great. She's
Okay.
been with me for 4 weeks, and I'm like, please don't go. Just stay forever.
So you're paying someone on a freelance basis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Which,
found
how did you find your virtual assistant?
Upwork.
Upwork.
But it
Okay.
takes time, guys. I mean, it's taken me a long time to find, and they need to be able to understand the tone of voice, your brand, how to execute. And what I've learned as well is if they don't do it right the first, if you see potential but they don't do it right the first month or a few weeks, it takes time for people to get you. Like if you started a new job, it'll take time for you
Of
to
course.
get familiar.
So getting the operations in place, what else?
Operations, new products.
Right, from scratch or?
They're going to be variations and also new journals.
What are the variations going to be?
The
Is it
variations,
top secret?
because this is just a really generic all lifestyle, improving your well-being and your life in general. And I sense that a lot of people are using the journal for various journeys in their life. So potentially there could be a journal for well-being, there could be a journal for business, there could be a journal for personal growth. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking at, and also little other accessories that go well with the journal,
What kind of accessories?
like post-it notes, cards,
Okay.
other fun things.
People love stationery, don't you? I didn't realise this. Some people spend a lot of money on
Yeah, but meaningful stationery that will improve your life.
Well, exactly.
forever.
Not just look good, but actually
Yeah.
content that really shakes things up. Double the price.
Yes.
Last couple of questions, Rosemary. Firstly, what's been the biggest learning? And from what you're observing, because you're now coaching a group here on our Startup Accelerator, what have you learned, seeing the kind of things that people struggle with and what you've been through? So the biggest kind of learnings and things to avoid. And then how can we help you?
So the biggest learning is that we all go through the same fear. So whatever fear you're going through, please, you're not the first person.
Not that special.
You're not. Yeah. So the fears that I've come through, like I've had experience with my group, is, oh my God, I'm too afraid to put my product out there. And I've been there. I was like, oh my God, I'm too afraid to put my product out there. Or I don't have enough time.
Fear of failure or fear of someone stealing it?
Failure.
Okay.
And also, it feels like you're putting yourself out there. It's a piece of you, and you're afraid that people will go, no, that's rubbish. So, so that's a key learning. So don't be afraid. Be afraid, but still do it. You can't, you have to do it. And I still fear that every day. Someone I get 2 good reviews, and I get 1 half decent review, and that's it. My life is done. I'm sad forever.
Yeah.
So that's life. And what else? Have fun. For me, I think find your reason as to why you actually want to do this, why you want to start up, why the business is important to you. And whilst you're doing it, remind yourself, not just thinking about why it's important to you or why you wanted to do it, but also activities that remind you why you wanted to do it. So for me, it's the freedom that I can have. For me, it was freedom if my dad lives in Derby and he's not too well, so I can always go and visit him when I want to. The freedom that if I do want to start a family, I can do it wherever I want to. I can travel the world. So how I remind myself is I go to yoga like randomly during the day because I can, right? And if you don't do those things to remind yourself when you're working 48 hours, or 24 hours a day, it doesn't become worth it. You lose the passion. You think, why am I doing this? So always remind yourself why and make it fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Great answer. How can we help you?
Buy
Buy a journal.
Buy a journal and yes.
Your life will. How much, in percentage terms, how much better will your life get once you've read your journal?
In percentage?
At least 10?
Oh God, we're talking about like 200%.
200% for a £30 investment.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, it's a mindset thing, and it's a practice. And it's like having your own personal coach telling you, like, you're great and you can do it, and kicking you off the butt when you need to.
So buy a journal.
Buy a journal.
Second to buy a journal, what else?
Second to buying my journal, I'm trying to build a community. So if anyone has a story or going through any, has been or going through any challenges and wants to talk about it within my community, that'd be great, because a lot of people are sharing, either they want to leave their work or it's family or they're writing a book, whatever it is. It's just, I want to have that engagement and conversation. So please get in touch with me, let's talk and engage on my social media.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rosemary. Thanks for being a great role model. Thanks for your help with the current escapees on the accelerator.
I don't think I had a choice, but it was a lot of fun.
You're making a big impact, and you've brought a lot of energy and wisdom, and it's been great to have you with us so far. So we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for following us today, and please connect with the entrepreneurs we've spoken to and support them and reach out to them and ask them for advice. Our next accelerator program applications kick off on Monday. They're coming up next week. We are on a mission to get 80 fantastic people who, like Rosemary and the previous people who've been here this morning, to go to escape and to help them. And this kicks off in September. It's a 10-week program for those that want to change careers and those that want to start up. So don't worry, we will be in your inboxes. But just so you know, that's coming. And if you want to get involved, do. Otherwise, happy escaping.
Yes.
See you soon.
See you
I'm going
guys.
to turn this off now.